Hello, Mark. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
We'll wait a moment or so, okay? No one's going to
Okay.
show their face today? Just me, huh? Are you in Santa Barbara, Maria?
No, I'm not. I'm from Ventura.
Okay. I'm in Pennsylvania where it's snowing.
Oh, that's nice. I love the cold.
Come on out. We have plenty. All right, 231. Sometimes we only get a couple people here, huh?
I guess so.
Okay. All right, here we go. Process costing. In chapter 3, we learned about job order costing, where you gathered costs together in the form of raw materials and direct labor, which are 100% variable and thus can be put right into the cost of the product. My famous bottle cap costs $1. Every time we make a bottle of soda, that's $1. Takes me an hour to screw it on. That's an hour of direct labor at $10 an hour. We learned that the overhead has to be applied by coming up with an overhead rate, which we then multiply by the actual units when they take place. Here in chapter 4, we're in something called process costing. We are going to, in this method here, we are going to gather costs to a department as opposed to an individual unit of production. And it's going to be done on the weighted average method. And we don't need to go through this slide here. Come on, this thing is giving me a hard time. Process costing. We're going to use the weighted average method. I want to see something here. We're going to be talking about something called equivalent units of production for a department. We're going to look at the units they had on hand at the beginning of the period, how many were transferred in, how many were transferred out, and what's left in the ending inventory. In process costing, we're going to accumulate the cost in departments. A company might have, Coca-Cola might have a mixing department where somebody makes the syrup or something. Another one might be making the bottles. Those could be separate manufacturing departments. So we're going to have the cost of work in process at the beginning, add new costs, subtract the costs that were transferred out, and then we will have the ending inventory number. We assign them to the ending work in process inventory and the units processed to the next department. Now I have a good cheat sheet that I'm going to put up here in a little while. and try to break this down a little bit easier for you. These slides are new and clunky. I don't particularly care for them. They're too busy. Each unit is assigned the average cost of the units processed. We need to know the total cost and, believe it or not, the total what they call equivalent units. Now, in this chapter here, we're not going to be talking material, labor, and overhead. We're going to be talking raw materials plus conversion cost. Raw materials plus conversion cost. And that's what we're seeing here. Direct labor and manufacturing overhead, we're combining them into one element of the cost. Direct materials is the other, raw materials. Now, this grid here is a good start. Here is what we are talking about. We have an assembly department. At the beginning of the month, there were 300 units there. There were 300 units. They were only completed 40% for materials and 20% for conversion. We don't add these two numbers up. They're two totally independent items. Materials. Maybe this bottle was filled up, but they didn't have the label on. They didn't have the bottle cap on, so it was only finished up to 40% for the materials. Or they didn't even put the fluid in yet, and the conversion cost is 20%. The percentages you see in this template here, and this is the template I urge you to have in front of you when you're doing your homework. And I'm going to email mine for you in a moment. These percentages, you don't worry about them. They're going to be given to you. The only way you might have to figure them out is if they give you a backloaded problem starting at the end. They're not going to do that. 40%. Units started into production. These are items that you received from another department or directly from the raw material area, from another department. Somebody mixed the liquid and then brought it over to the bottling guy. The percentage of completion on the transfers in is 0. 0, and we need to know that extremely well. We're going to come up with the transfers out. Transfers out, meaning the items that we finished and moved to the next department. That unit of measure is 100%. We come to the ending inventory here, and they're telling you that there's 900 units left, 60% done for material, 30% done for conversion. Now, I know this sounds a little goofy, but let's just keep going through it, start to make a little bit of sense, I hope. We need to know the equivalent, what are called the equivalent units. All of your questions are going to be about the equivalent units of production. Hold on one second. Okay. Let's look at this. This is your formula. This little formula will let you answer tons of questions. Let's understand what the formula is for equivalent units of production. It's the items transferred out, which we just learned are at 100%. You don't transfer something to the next department unless it's completed. This bottle of soda is not going to go to the inspecting department until it's completed. But we have to know what the percentage of completion was in work in process. And they will give you these percentages. So how much was left in work in process? 900 units, 60% complete for raw materials, 30% complete for conversion. Sorry about that. 30% for conversion. We add the numbers. Those are your what are called the equivalent units of production. And our job is to fill out this grid, get this thing done, and then get the dollars going, dollarize everything. Equivalent units of production always equals, like we just said, units transferred out plus the equivalent units still in the ending inventory. For materials, it was 5,940. For conversion, 5,670. You don't add these numbers together. They have nothing to do with each other. They are separate metrics. Now, let's put some dollars on this, huh? Put some meat on the bone, as we say. Compute the cost per equivalent units using the weighted average. And that's all we're going to use, as far as I know. Okay. The beginning work in process inventory was 300 units. They were 40% complete, and for raw materials, 20% for conversion, and they're giving you the dollars involved. So our beginning inventory in dollars is 6,119 for materials and 3,920 for conversion. During the month, they started 6,000 units. Those are the items transferred in. They were at 0% complete. How much money did they spend completing those items? And they're giving it to you right here. The material cost was 118,621, and the conversion cost 81,130. 900 units left, 60% and 30% complete, respectively. I don't particularly like this slide, and I hope to show you something clearer. The formula for cost per equivalent units is equivalent units divided by the cost per unit. Equivalent units equivalent units multiplied by the cost per unit to get the total dollars. Not too tough there, I don't think. And now they're going to give us a little schedule here, showing you the total cost to be accounted for. Remember, they are giving you these numbers here. And the equivalent units we just figured out at the end of the month were 5,009 and 5,006. 124,000. We see that number there? The total materials, we're going to take that total raw material and divide it by the 5,940 equivalent units of production in materials. We will do the same thing with the $85,000. Divide that by the 5,670 gives us $15. The cost equals 21 for material, 15 for conversion cost. Total cost $36 a unit. Assign costs to the units. Okay, let me just move something here. Here is our template again. This is called the reconciliation. Remember, we had a beginning inventory of 540 and I'm sorry, not beginning, ending inventory, 540, times the cost per equivalent unit gives us what's in the inventory. We go to the transfers out. We transferred out 5,400, 5,400. The transfers out are always going to be the same number. It's always 100%. You multiply these two guys out, and you get the 113 and the 81. Therefore, the total transfer out number is going to be the 194, and that's the 115 in the ending inventory. I'm going to keep going with these slides and try and work hard to get this thing understandable. Here, now this is a simple what they call reconciliation. We know what the cost was of the work in process inventory. It was 10,039. 10,039. We'll use these numbers. 10,039. We knew that from the beginning. We added to production $199,000. This is the transfer in total. This is your 100% stuff. This is the ending inventory units times the percentage of completion. The total to be accounted for must equal, in terms of the ending inventory and the transfers out. And it's quite easy. And I'm going to have a slide coming up here that I'm going to work with a little bit. Beginning inventory plus what we added gives you something that I like to call total cost available, total cost to be accounted for. We have to say to the world, this 209,790, what did we do with it? Well, we produced product or sub-assemblies or something going to the next department or to finished goods, and we have work that's partially done, and it equals 209,790. Now, to make things a little more complicated, you might have a second or third processing department. You're going to move it from your department to another department. The journal entry would be debiting work in process dash bottling and crediting work in process mixing or something. So let's see where this takes us. Units completed, 5,400. Then we're back to our same numbers again. The 59 and the 5940 and the 6,300. Okay, another more complicated then needs to be distraction. Beginning, I got things jumping around on my darn. Okay. Second production department. Beginning WIP inventory, 300 units. 40% complete, 20% complete. For material and conversion. Transfer in 100%. So they're giving you these dollars. Your beginning was 6,000 plus the 3,920 plus the 10. Units transferred in, they tell us it was 6,000, and they completed 5,400 of those. So your ending inventory is going to be 300 units plus 6,000 transferred in, 6,300, minus those that were completed for a balance of 900. And they're giving you the related dollars here, the related dollars. Come on now. So here's a schedule for a second department. Again, our equivalent units were the 5,940. We're back to these numbers again, 21 and 15. This was the transferred in, the 100%. And we came up with the same cost per equivalent unit. Cost per equivalent unit. Let me do something here. Let me share something. I'm going to email this over to you shortly. This is I offer this as an easier way to try to understand what we're doing. We have a beginning inventory. We have transfers in. The beginning inventory is at these percentages, 30 and 50%. That's where we get the 24 and the 4. Transfers in are 0%. Total 18,400. Transfers out, I'm sorry, the transfers in are 0%. We transferred out 20,000 and we come up with an ending inventory here. Okay. This is the template. Beginning inventory plus transfers. That's what's available. Less the transfer call, transfers out, gives you the ending inventory. How do we get the unit cost? Okay. The units of production cost. Well, the units of production looks like it's going to be total available 90,000. We're going to divide that by the equivalent units of production. What was the ending inventory in raw materials? 4,000, right? That's 1,200 for raw materials. And these are not percentages, by the way. 1,200. Now for conversion cost, our units of production would be the 20,000 that was transferred out. The 20,000, we'll put it here, why not? And it's that simple to get the units of production. Beginning inventory plus transfers in is what you're responsible for. You transfer out and you go from there. So there are our units of production. All right. I'm going to change. I'll leave that alone. Now what we have to come up with is the unit price. Okay. So what was available? $72,000 for raw material and $90,000 for conversion. So let's put some costs on this thing. 90,000 divided, I'm sorry, 72,000 for raw materials divided by the 1,200 is going to give us what, 600 or 60? $60 per equivalent units of production. 60. 90,000 divided by 90,000 divided by the 20 gives us this lovely number. Just a quick second here. I want to put it here. Plus 90,000 divided by 20,000 should be $4.50 when we put the decimal in. So you're going to take these numbers here, the 60 and the 450, and multiply it by the 20,000, and then it's just a matter of subtracting. And you do the same thing with the ending inventory. Okay? It's a little tricky to process cost accounting. When I first got out of college, the first place I worked for had this system going. This process cost accounting works in a company that makes the same thing over and over and over. A stapler manufacturer, staples. You're popping a staple every 10th of a second or something. That would be process. Anything in the beverage industry, that would be process accounting. Your book, I think, uses skis, that they make skis one after the other, and then they varnish them in one department. That is where process cost accounting is used. Oil companies, that's a good example too, chemical places. And then the reconciliation is right up here. We would take the 24 and the 16.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We're still looking at the second production department. Is that right?
No. I'm so sorry, guys. I failed to share this thing. I think if you don't see it, here we go. Give me 1 second here. Thank you, Mark. Boy, I hate when I do that, huh? You seeing that for the first time, Mark?
What was that?
You see it now, the Excel screen?
No, it's still the second production.
Okay, hold on. Your screen sharing is paused, whatever that means. Try it again. How about now? You see the Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Okay. This is what I've been babbling about for the last few minutes. A simple template, beginning inventory plus transfers in gives you what you're responsible for. You transfer 20 out. I'm going to make this a little lower number for reasons of my own. I just don't like seeing the same number twice. Total available, you're responsible for 24. 10 gives you 14 in the ending inventory. These are the dollars here. Your total dollars for raw material is 72,000. You take that number and we're going to divide it by the equivalent units of production for raw materials. That's $72,000. We know we had partially done the raw materials. We divide it out, we get $60 per unit. Per unit. We do the same thing with the 90,000. When we divide the 90 by the 20,000, or in this case, I've changed it to 10, we're going to get $9 a piece. Now that we know that, we can take the $60 per unit times the 1,200 at 30%. And hopefully this will work. We take that unit, that's the unit price, times this here, times 30%. Comes out to $21,600. I did a little, I goofed this up, I think, when I set this up. I should have used a bigger number here. Okay. Same thing with the conversion. That was $9. $9. So we're going to go plus 9 times the units in the raw materials. I'm sorry, the units in the conversion times 40%. And there is your ending inventory dollars. I put terrible numbers up here, so we're coming up with a bit of a negative. But I hope that gives you a sense of what we're trying to do here. I'll polish this guy up for us, and I'll email it to the class, and you can make use of it as you choose. I just know from teaching this for a while now that once you get comfortable with these three items, problem one, putting the whole template together where you figure out the equivalent units of production. And here you demonstrate the equivalent units of production and the cost per unit. And once you have that, you can do the dollarization. Problem one was the template. Problem two, units of production. And problem three is the reconciliation. This template should help you answer any questions that we may have. So let me stop the sharing now and go back to our wonderful PowerPoint. It's getting on my nerves. Operation costing. A hybrid job order and process, it possesses attributes of both approaches. I really don't believe that we go into this in terms of the course. Let's take a peek at it. Operation costing, when many batches of the same thing come through. We know that. And job order is the opposite. The opposite. We're not making the product until somebody orders it. So we put our direct material and labor and applied overhead into the job order, and we put the conversion cost and raw materials into the processing end. I knew they didn't do much with the operation costing. Whew. Anybody got any questions? Anything I can help you with? What do you think, Mark? Make a little bit of sense, or really kind of lost right now?
Yeah, I think the book makes it more confusing than it needs to be.
Yeah, these slides are different. And to me, they're not an improvement, especially when they lay it out in ways that are, to me, not conducive. I'm just looking for an example. Like these slides are too busy. You know, you guys are looking at all this, it's a bit much. And then they do this, which I don't like. Come on now. When you present it like this, it doesn't have any flow. You have to kind of pick and choose at it. But I hope you get the basic idea that transfers out plus the ending inventory at the percentage equals per equivalent units of production. If you know that, you conquered half of this class, okay? All right, I guess I'm gonna call it a class unless anybody has anything else to talk about. My cousin, my nephew's kind of a weird guy. He's going to the Philadelphia Eagles parade downtown Friday. It's gonna be freezing cold down there, but that's up to him. Hey, take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye, all.
Oh, Bob, are you still there?
Yeah, Mark.
I have a question. When are you gonna send out the template?
Give me about an hour, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I want to make I want to make sure it's perfect. I started putting it through about a half hour before class, and the numbers I put in there were clunky, and they led to negative inventories and things we don't want to see. Okay.
Okay, I was just wondering because I was gonna be without internet, so it's kind of good that class kind of ended early
Uh-huh.
because we had a little electrical fire, so the electrician's gonna be turning off everything pretty soon.
Okay. Okay. I'll get it out there as quickly as possible.
Okay, no problem.
Hey, thank you so much, Mark.
All right, thank you. Bye.
See you next week.